Hello, you gorgeous human being. It is me, Susie Ashworth, and I'm so excited that I am going to be introducing to you our first official sponsor of the Infinite Receiving podcast, my brand new book, Infinite Receiving. Crack the code to conscious wealth creation and finally manifest your dream life. This book is the culmination of my entire life and exactly what it's taken for me to create a business that has manifested millions of pounds in sales and helped thousands of clients from across the world create and receive more of what they want in their life and in their businesses. So if you are going into 2024 wanting to receive more money, more love, more joy, more freedom, this is the book for you. Right now, I am using this book as my manual, my guide to life, to help me when it comes to receiving more of what it is that I desire every single day. Right now, we are in pre-launch mode. And if you are a regular listener of this podcast, you love having these audio conversations on a weekly basis, you are going to love this book, and I would deeply appreciate your support in pre-ordering your copy now. What I am doing for those of you who say, yes, we want to support, we want to help, is if you purchase your copy before Christmas Eve, I am organising a very special Q&A session that will happen during our launch week. So you are going to be able to ask me any questions that you have about your life, about your business, about your love, about what I've written in the book as a very special thank you for supporting me in this pre-launch phase. So head over to Amazon. All you need to do is pre-order the book, send me your proof of purchase to hey@susieashworth.com, and my team will make sure you get your very special ticket as a thank you for your support. Now, let's get back to the episode. This is the Infinite Receiving podcast, helping conscious leaders tap into a wealth of abundance across all areas of your life and business. I'm Susie Ashworth, and I'll be sharing with you how you can upgrade your reality through quantum transformation, because you are ready for infinite receiving. I am really excited to share with you this conversation with Sophie Towill, who is a jewellery designer and a healer. We talk about her journey with sobriety. She has been sober since the end of 1999, and really her journey with self-healing, spirituality, relationships, the relationship with her father, and alcoholism. It's a really, really tender, beautiful conversation, and I know that you are going to love it. So I am going to zip it and let you dive straight in. Hello, you gorgeous human being. It is Susie Ashworth here, and you are listening to the Infinite Receiving podcast. And I have got a juicy one for you today. You know what it means when I say juicy, don't you? I've got a conversation coming up, which I know that you are going to love, with the incredible Sophie Towill. So, Sophie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's
you are very welcome. So, Sophie, you are a jewelry designer and would you describe yourself as a healer as well?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes, actually. There was a stumble because it's such a big word. And I think to say that I'm a healer it's it's a journey I'm on to embrace and discover that part of myself. But I would say more I'm an empath.
I think it's really interesting because as I was just listening to you respond to that part of the question, am I a healer? The thing that was coming up for me is actually I think that we're all healers.
Yeah.
Every conversation, every person gets to be a mirror and an opportunity for us to grow and develop, which means that we all get to play our part in somebody else's path.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think I think that's a really beautiful way, because I think when you say you're a healer, the connotations of what that could be and what people can perceive that, but actually, for me, being in the light, which is being in a place, being connected to my heart and coming from a place of love, which is sort of what I think the journey that I've been on. This is sort of, what I've learned is the way I like to live my life. I get it wrong a lot, but and it's so by being that is, what I invite in and who I invite in, everything is a teachable moment, like you're saying. And I learn from my friends and relationships and co-workers all the time. So yeah, I think I think we all have that ability in us to be conscious and awake and listen to our intuition and the signs that we see around us. So I totally agree with you on that. That it's I think the importance of that word, because I know people who I really do see as profound healers, and you're one of them, in that. So to say I am, it's something I'm beginning to embrace more and more.
Yeah, I think I've had a journey with the word healer and healing. And I think it's because when I think about it, or when I used to think about it, it was always from a place of wounding and something that needs to be fixed. And I think that the longer that I've been in this personal development world, the more challenged I have been by the concept of any of us needing to be fixed. And where I've come to right now, and I'm open to this changing, of course, is that rather than healing, it's more about revealing. Where can we reveal more parts of ourselves? How can we get back to the core of ourselves? And I think that, and I know that this is not always true, but when I think about it in the highest, there are some people who have reached such a level of devotion to self and understanding of the potency of love and their heart, that when you come into their presence, there is a profound revealing of self, because they mirror to us what is within ourselves, which is heart, which is love, which is worthiness, which is deservingness. And those people, you might call them profound healers, and yes, and I think I prefer the idea of when I sit opposite the Dalai Lama, the reason that I cry. I haven't sat opposite the Dalai Lama, but I could imagine.
Yeah, I know. I'd like to sit opposite the Dalai Lama.
Yeah,
I would definitely cry.
Yeah, I mean, most people do. It's that love that he feels for self and others that creates that healing, that all of a sudden you know in that moment that you're worthy and deserving. And that's what most healing is, I think.
No, you said a lot in that. So I'm just going to, I'm like, okay, there was a lot. So I think, I don't like the word fixed, because then it's like you said, and it's as if there's something wrong with us. I'm in a 12-step program. I'm sober and have been for, actually, I was just 24 years last week.
Congratulations.
And it's an amazing thing, and it saved my life, and I feel very, very grateful for that. But they use the word defect, and I don't, and it's the same, and it's like, actually it's not, it's shadow and light. We have within us, there's the sun and the moon, there's the dark and the light, and like what you said, it's, we all have stories. I have a story. I think most of us who choose to be on this path, it's because I know for me I had to. If I wanted to stay alive, I had to be on a spiritual path. I needed to, at various moments in my life, sort of look inwards and heal, but not fix. It's sort of slightly different. There were parts of me that were broken, but it didn't mean that I was bad or it was anything wrong. It was circumstances, and it was my story. So it's and then in that, like you said, it's coming back to the true person of who I was before X, Y, and Z happened. And that's sort of been my journey, is to be me, because we're born and we are us. And then it all goes on, whatever goes on, and everyone does the best that they can, but stuff happens. And then we learn to cope and adapt, and that can work or not work. In my case, it didn't. And then, and then there's the unraveling of that to come back to my core. And then in doing that, in that, a big part of my journey was coming from my head and coming into my heart. Because I was for a long time totally cut off from my heart. And that, and that feeling, it's amazing when, like you were saying, that the reaction you have to others, and not from an ego place, just from an authentic self, when you're in your heart, it's totally different. It's my life is amazing, and it's abundant in love, because I'm able to give it to myself ultimately, which is the most important thing. Finally, it's been a long time getting there, but I hand on heart say I do that today. And then therefore, because of that, I'm able to give it unconditionally to others with no want or something in return. And therefore they're open to that. So it's and I get really, it's amazing being in the presence of someone who's really connected to their heart and in that true space, because I get a real sense of it. And like you, it makes me really emotional. Because especially in the world we're living in at the moment and everything going on, it's all I have to give is love, and without, and no judgment.
So I am curious, if you look back to the beginning of your life now with hindsight, is it obvious that you were going to end up in this, on this path, doing what you're doing now?
Good question. I think what I've come to, where I have acceptance around my life and my childhood, is that whatever's happened, whatever happened to me to get me to this place. Because had I not had to be on the journey I went on, I mean, I wouldn't be here. Yes, I might have made jewellery because I'm a creative, but would the spiritual aspect of that and the healing aspect and the training, I'm training to be a sound therapist, will have all that come into play? Maybe not. So I think I would have always been a creative, but would it have been on a deeper level? No, I imagine not. So it's that thing of because I think, like, you're a woman who's in service, and when we've got stories and we're on this journey, it's like what fills my heart is being of service to others, however big, however small, whatever. There's there's no right size in what that entails. It's whatever we're able to do in our, in our day and our moment, and there are times in my life when I've not been able to do that so much because I've needed to give it all to myself, and I've had to be selfish in times in my life, to then get me to a place where I am now, where I am able to give much more and help others. So yeah, no, but I don't remember a lot of being a child. So, but the creative was always in me. But the spiritual side is something that has sort of in the last 15 years really developed.
So you've been sober since 2000?
I got sober in end of 99. So yeah, October the 13th, 1999.
What was that journey in terms of, was it drugs, alcohol? What was your poison, for want of a better word? Both.
It was both. It was party. I was a big raver, big party girl. And then it got to a place where it wasn't really fun anymore. So yeah, no, I got sober when I was 26.
What were you, in my limited experience with addiction, my understanding is that people are either trying to escape pain or fill a void, which again maybe both. Yeah. What was your? Yeah. Why were you doing it?
At the time, I had no idea. I think I was so. I was running away from fear. I think I was as a child, I was very scared. I had a lot of fear. I was incredibly shy, like so painfully shy. I had this head of judge and critique that I just thought that's how we all think. So how I judge and criticize myself and everyone around me, that's what we're all doing to each other. And so it sort of enabled me to sort of be out in the world, really. I had a lot of fun. I was a raver. I did all the acid house parties, lived in Thailand on a beach, running a nightclub. There was a lot of fun. But I think unpicking all of that, there was also somebody in me scared girl who really wanted to belong somewhere. Mm-hmm. And the mad thing is that I always thought I never in that moment had the confidence to be me. And who was I? I had no idea really who I was. I sort of made myself whatever I thought, whatever group I was hanging out in wanted me to be. And I loved, there was this, I was listening to this Brené Brown podcast the other day, and she just, this thing of like, if I belong to myself, I belong everywhere. And if I start trying to be what you want me to be, then I don't belong because I don't belong to myself. Yeah. And that's therein, like, it's that thing of throughout my life, my work and my journey has been to be into my power and to be myself, and that is enough. I am enough. I am enough that I'm a kooky, nerdy, slightly opinionated, well, actually quite opinionated, strong woman. And back then that person, I just didn't know how to be that. So the drugs and the booze sort of gave me that confidence to go out and sort of do that. And then it got to a place. My father was an alcoholic, and he died of this disease when I was nearly 17. Okay. So I knew where I was going. The gift he gave me was I saw what it does, and I knew where I was going. So I was, there was a lot of yets for me, as they say in recovery. But it's, addiction is, it's the drinking and the shopping or the whatever, the food is the end bit. There's they call it the tree. There's a tree, and the roots are your trauma, whatever that may be. And then your trunk is your codependency. And then the branches and twigs and leaves are all your addictions. And so that's sort of, yeah. So it's the dealing with the trunk and the roots once you get rid, and filling that tree with, you know, being in recovery, you know, all the good nurturing things to fill me up. So it's a not a destructive tree, it's a beautiful tree. If that makes sense.
I am curious though, because my mother, foster mother, died when I was 19, and the way that I describe
Okay.
that period in my life, it was a huge wake up call for me. It was kind of like a fork in the road.
Okay.
It was like I either
Okay.
continue
Yeah.
smoking, drinking, raving,
Yeah.
basically just dossing around, which
Yeah.
actually maybe is part of just being a teenager also,
Well, exactly. Yeah.
or I do something different with my life. And actually, for me, there was probably
Mm.
4 years whilst I was living abroad where I was having a huge amount of fun. But a big part of that was my grieving. It was grieving,
Okay.
finding myself, understanding that I could do different things, but also choosing a more spiritual path.
Yeah.
And I described the loss of my mother at that age. It was the biggest gift for me. I would not be here if I hadn't been presented with the reality of life is short and you get one chance. What are you going to do with it? And so you described it as a gift. You said, I knew where I was heading if I didn't stop this. I'm wondering if there are any other gifts in that experience of loss at such an early age that you can quite clearly see right now.
Oh, I've never thought of that. I think, to be really honest, I'm not so sure. It's a complicated one because obviously a lot went on, and I was I mean, the real truth is that, you know, when he died that night, I went out and got pissed. You know, that's how I dealt with it. Is I didn't deal with it. I was so disconnected from myself at that point. I think if it had been in today's world, I would have probably been put into rehab at the age of 17. So in that moment, I didn't really feel. I mean, I didn't really feel much until I got sober, because that's the whole. You know, we're running away from that when we use. Because so I so no, I've never really thought of it like that. In that, I think it. You know, my father was. There were long periods of time when I wouldn't see him.
Yeah.
So it was. I felt, in a way, actually, I felt guilty for not feeling much, if I'm being really honest, because he wasn't always really present. And that's just, there's no blame. It's just, that's how it was. So I think it would have been probably a very different situation. You know, I'm really grateful. I still have my mum, and she's very much around. So, yeah. So no.
Do you still feel guilty
on that one? No, definitely not. No, not anymore.
It's interesting because when you spoke about love and you spoke about your heart and you spoke about having so much to give, and this is, it's amusing rather than the expectation of there being an answer, but I sometimes find with the people that I engage with who have done the work to move through their story, their experience, their trauma, that those are the people that have the most to give because they have lived in the shadow and been in the contraction.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think, you know, I've done a lot of work on myself, and I think the people that I've worked with, and have got the most from, are people who have a story. You know, I think because then we're really able, you know, it's like I have girls who I mentor, sponsor, and I you know, I know it. I know the pain that they're going through because I've been through it. So when I confidently can say, hand on heart, you're going to be okay when something's going on, I know they will be because I have been. I'm just further on down the road. I'm just older than they are. So I have more experience. So so no, I think, but like I said to you before, had I not gone where I've gone and felt what I've felt, I wouldn't probably be sitting here talking to you now.
Yeah.
And I think we all, and that's what we all have a real common thread of that, of compassion. I think is a big acceptance and compassion, and in most cases no judgment. I think that's a really important thing. Is that who am I to judge anyone? What right do I have to judge anyone? And and believe you me, I have judged. Of course, I have, because that's back in back in the day. Not now, but before. Of course, I've been judgmental. I mean, it's part of one shadow. I've been jealous. I've been judgmental. But you know what? If I'm judgmental, it bites me on the arse. I always, doesn't matter how long, but if I have judged a friend or something or someone, I can guarantee you at some point in my life, I am going to be in that situation.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't stop me from being judgmental all the time. But I am more conscious.
Oh, no, I mean,
I am more conscious
exactly.
about it.
It doesn't sit with me so much now when it feels a bit murky, when you're
exactly.
I'm like, okay. And actually what I have to go is, okay, what is going on with me?
Yes.
Why am I being judgmental?
Yes.
What is it about me? Because ultimately that's what it's fear, isn't it? I think all
one
of
of your desires
comes down to fear.
One of your desires, one of the things that you're not honouring, one of the things that you're afraid of, it's all there.
Yeah.
It's there. There's the mirror.
Yeah.
So what happened at 26 that made you say, okay, enough is enough?
Do you know what? It wasn't anything like, whoa, big. It wasn't just. It was that I was tired. I had no, it's like, I had no sort of desire. I felt like everything ached, everything really hurt. I have a picture of me that I will always sort of keep of that time, and just the eyes. There's nothing behind my eyes. It's just sort of dead inside. And I just had that moment a moment of like, actually, I don't want to be doing this. A couple of, friends, my really true friends who are still my friends, were sort of like, what are you doing? And an ex-boyfriend of mine, we went for lunch, and he said, what did he say? He said, you used to really shine and you're not shining anymore.
Wow.
And that really hit a chord. Yeah. So it was just a lot. And then I was seeing a therapist, and I sort of came clean about what I was up to, and they gave me sort of some hard truths. And so just something happened, and I was like, okay, I'll get some help. And then for a bit, I really didn't take it seriously. I had absolutely no idea the power of addiction, and actually what it means, and how it's, and I tried to control my drinking for a bit when I went into rehab. I was really fortunate that I was able to do that. And then I after a few months, sort of thought, okay, I can try and control my drinking. But the obsession just in my head of that was like, because I'd had a glimpse of what it felt like to sort of have a slight amount of peace. I had no idea what peace was. I mean, it's just, my life was chaos. It was heartbreak, drama, just chaos, running, just sort of internal chaos. It might have looked good or been stylish or whatever, but internally it was just, there was no peace. There was no balance, and there was no peace. And so, so after a few months, I just thought, actually, I'm going to really give this a go. So I did. And it's the amazing thing of being in a 12-step program and working it, is that, you learn how to become accountable for yourself. And for me, I had learned how to had to take responsibility for my actions. I was really good at blaming everyone else. Like, well, they did this and they did that, or when that happens, or when I get this, then that, and it was about learning how to be present in the moment, really difficult, and how to be responsible and go, okay, look at me. Why am I doing what I'm doing? What am I getting out of it? Why am I, it basically was just repeating the same pattern again and again, and sort of, because it served me, or it used to serve me. It was my coping mechanisms. So it's and I feel it's an amazing gift. The flip side of it, when you're in it, being a sober woman or being a sober human, it's a really it's a real gift, actually. I've met the most beautiful people, and I've seen people really transform their lives. So it's a real privilege.
Do you feel that there is a difference between people who have just chosen to give up drinking, chosen not to drink, and a sober person?
Yeah. I suppose I'd say more recovering alcoholic, because you can be sober, but I didn't choose to give up drink. I would say I'm a recovering alcoholic.
Sure.
And I have, and therefore it's a mental health disease, it's a disease of the mind. So somebody who chooses to give up drinking is not necessarily an alcoholic. They're just choosing to give up drinking because they want to feel better or whatever. So I do think there is it does, for me, my drinking was destructive. I drank to black out. I would wake up in places and in situations that I wouldn't want my child to do. So, it's that difference, I would say. Yeah.
Can you remember those first, maybe even couple of years of being sober and how it felt? Did it feel good or did it feel hard?
I was both. I was mad. I was so mad. I think today, when I see when people get sober now, the depth of knowledge that people have today compared to where I was back then is very different. I think because of what, everyone has access to, and the conversations are different. And it's much, but no, my first couple of years, there was, great fun. I would still be going out and partying and dancing, and but with people I felt safe with, with people who respected the fact I didn't put myself in situations where I would be pressured. My friends were so supportive, and were very protected of and respectful. So I would still go out and have a really good time, because it's that thing, getting sober at 26, you're like, my God, is my life over? And actually, no, it wasn't. It was one, I remembered it. And, I had a lot of fun. But the internal chaos still went on, and it went on for a while. I think it's that peeling off the onion layers, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's sort of looking back. Actually, in that moment, I probably thought I was great and fine, but now looking back on myself, I'm like, oh, okay, you were still slightly bouncing off the walls, but and going into having stuff around food, and I definitely was shopping too much. It's like whack-a-mole.
Sure.
You might put down the drink and the drugs, but it's like, okay, well, what's going to surface up now? What is it going to, because ultimately it's like, what am I going to do to not feel?
Yes.
So, it's a journey. It's a journey.
When did you start to feel safe with your feelings?
Ooh. It's gone through, I'd say that's gone in and out. So I would have moments, and then things would happen, and then I would have to do, I think what I really believe is we are given what we're meant to be given at, times in my life. I have been given what I've meant to be given and deal with at different times in my life. So I've definitely, in that 24 years, there have been times when things got really painful. I'd say probably around 7 years clean and sober, I ended up in Arizona in a trauma center, having to sort of do some looking and some healing. And those feelings were really big and they were really painful. And I had no idea you could feel feelings on that level, to be really honest. And had I done that, had those feelings come up, when I was newly sober, I probably wouldn't have stayed sober. It would have been too much. So when when these did come up and when I did sort of have to confront them, I had a foundation. And then that's when my real sort of spiritual looking at not having to be in control of my life really started. And that's when all this work. So 15 years ago, I'd say, really the journey of discovery really started in that. But so feeling safe in my feelings, I think when I came out of that, I knew that I could come out of that moment. So whatever I went through, I was going to be okay. It might not be fun.
Yeah.
Because, the sort of pain, grief, heartbreak, trauma, it's not fun, but I know, and I know I'll move through it. So
I really, truly believe that at least when you're in the work and there's a level of consciousness that you have, and you will have had that because you had been in the program, that you are only ever given what you can handle. And so you had a 7-year cycle, and it was like, okay, now she's ready. So it's it's interesting to see that presented so clearly in that way. So that was the opening to the real spiritual work. Well, not the real spiritual work, the next level of spiritual work. And I'm curious because within the 12-step program, it is very much rooted in, is it spirit? Would you say it's spirituality or would you say it's God?
Yeah. No, it's not. It's spiritual. It's a spiritual program. They use the word God. They use the word God because it's a word. I mean, but it can be good orderly direction. It's sort of it's a word that it is a spiritual program. It is the basis of it. Yeah.
But it wasn't until you had this moment in Arizona that things really opened up for you spiritually. What was the decision or the tipping point for you?
Well, I wanted to live, basically. And I think it was why even though I was sober, I wasn't surrendering. A big part of, I think, being connected to something else is surrendering. You can have a belief. It's like every day my sort of mantra or my ask is, show me what I'm meant to do, but please give me the courage to do it. Because I've been shown many, many times and presented with opportunities and lessons, and I'm like, nah, not going to do that. Thank you very much. Go the other way. So it's sort of, it's like, and it is about sort of surrender of, I had 7 years, but I wasn't surrendering parts of me. And, it was that thing of wanting, I think a learned behavior was wanting to control everything and everyone around me in order to be safe. And at that point in time, that stopped working. And it's the most liberating thing, it's sort of, it's impossible to even think that you can control everything and everyone and every outcome around you. I mean, it's insane, and then when you finally have that moment of surrender and you really go into that, the freedom is amazing. So yeah, it was, but it was ultimately, I wanted to be okay. I have a real gift of determination to be okay in my own skin. And I am today, but I wasn't back then.
Was there a specific moment where you were like, this isn't fucking working? Or was it layers?
It was another failed relationship. My choice of men wasn't always great, not surprisingly. And it was just like, things happened and things surfaced, and it was time for me to heal those parts, those not broken, not wrong, just wounded parts of me.
How did those wounded parts of you show up in your relationships back then?
Yeah, I was always in a relationship. Didn't know how to be on my own. Total abandonment of self. Mm-hmm. Really, it really was. And also not knowing what actually love and intimacy was. I just didn't.
What did you think it was?
I didn't know how to give it, because I didn't give. It was sort of. Oh, that's a good question. What did I think it was? I think it was probably being adored, maybe but also being in love, in an intense, fixated love, is better than any drug you've ever taken. Quite frankly, no. I mean, it's like, it sends you gaga. So that intense, it's like, so I wanted that intensity. I'm like, that romance, that intensity, and actually that isn't, as we know today, that doesn't last very long. And it's actually, for me now, if I meet somebody and I get that, that's like a big red flag.
Right, okay.
I mean, because it's sort of, before I've met somebody, or, I'm sort of I've been single for a while, so I've gone into the whole world of online dating, and when you have that sort of connection with somebody you've never met before, and your head's going, wee, but the rest of me is going, move along, because it's no, but it's true. It's like,
move along, Sophie. There is nothing for you to see here.
It is literally cat. Yeah, I am. Narcissists are my catnip. I literally am like, they're like, I'm a moth to a flame. What can I say? I mean, really. So luckily nowadays I know my red flags, and I come out of that way quicker. So.
I mean, we could do a whole episode on that, because that's very... What I want to know is, why does your body... I mean, and this is interesting, because we're talking about surrender. We're talking about releasing control. At the beginning, you talked about really dropping out of your head and into your heart, into your body. But when it comes to love... the body is not the best indicator for you, because your body would have you doing all sorts of things by the sounds of it, and you then need to engage. Tell me.
No, so my gut will tell. So actually, no, it's my head will go off into this fantasy, but my gut is saying, get the hell out of Dodge, because it's making. So it's very no. I'll happily. I'm a fantasist. I love, I used to dream of George Michael coming to rescue me as a child. I don't know what, but anyway, so it's like, love George Michael. Anyway, so it was just, so if my head can quite happily still go off into la la land, but my body will be like, this isn't safe, this isn't right, this is not. It's that thing, I think, when I'm when I'm adrenalized, or when I'm like that, it's like, okay, what's going on? Why? But it's also, though, and not negating that when you do meet somebody and you do have a really strong connection with them and it is authentic, your body does that too.
Yeah.
So it's a really fine line, but it's sort of knowing, it's like so it's being aware of like, okay, so do you feel safe with this person? Do I feel safe with this person? Is the conversation a balanced conversation for where you're at, so you can go into those feelings? Or is it more that, that they're bringing you in type thing? Their love, there's a lot of love bombing goes on out there, doesn't it? I'm sure from women too. So it's just being really conscious of that. But falling in love is a really beautiful feeling. And it does send you off your center, and it does send you off balance, because it's scary. Really opening your heart to someone it is a risk. But yeah, but it's
Are you excited to fall in love again?
yes, yeah, I am. Yeah, no, I am. It's been a while. It's actually been a really I was my last big relationship was probably actually nearly 6 years ago. And then I did a 3-year break. It was like, I really need to look at my choices, and because I am the one common person in all of this. So I did another deep dive, and it was the most transformational thing. I mean, the last 6 years of it's that thing of falling in love with me. I really, really did that really big, big, big piece of work of being okay with me and being on my own and creating this beautiful life that I now have. It was great, but it wasn't as abundant as it is. And now it's amazing. Not like, whoa, glamour, but, just like so full.
Yeah.
I have conversations with women in my life, and I come away just feeling just full up. It's proper connection, So yeah, no, I am excited. I am ready to fall in love in a way probably that will be very different to ever before, actually, because of who I am is very different.
Yeah.
Yeah. My last relationship was my biggest teacher, I think for both of us, and we're now really good friends, which is great.
I think I think about this a lot, because you have the work that you do on your own. You have to do the solo work. You have to look at yourself. You have to be able to be with yourself. You have to be able to value yourself. You have to know yourself. And if you spent a lifetime not being yourself because you're trying to fit in with everybody else, which is really the journey of humanity, then you definitely have to do that work. I think what is interesting, and I'm speaking through my own personal lens, is that you can do a lot of solo work, but that will never be the same as doing the work with your mirror. And you can think that you've done it all. You can think that you're so evolved. You can think all of the things, and then you meet your mirror and it's like...
oh yeah, no. Yes. Yeah.
So
ask me
the relationship work is, for me, the most potent work, but you can't do the most potent work if you haven't done your own inner work. I think maybe that changes, but that's where I'm at with it right now.
No, I totally agree with you, actually. I I do agree. I needed to be on my own to do this deep dive. And then because I needed to have that selfish moment of just being with me. And then so hopefully in my next relationship, I mean, I have had things in the last 3 years. And each one it's been about me turning up, and it's been about me having a voice, and each person has come in, has taught me. I mean, they are, we're sent lessons, aren't we? And and it's been about me having a voice, big thing for me in relationships is about me learning to have a voice, and that's okay. And being in my power and not being scared of that.
And how
that
does
not being an ego place, and that not being like, hey, not being from a place of ego, just being right sized. That this is who I am, and this is what I have to give. So,
and how does that balance with the previous version of you that wanted to control everybody, control everything, control all of the outcomes? Like, what is because it always feels like it's such a fine line, right?
Yeah.
Is it? I mean,
I think big thing is I probably listen. I listen to people now instead of telling them what to do.
Yes.
You know, it's that thing of I don't need to fix anyone. It's not my right to fix anybody. It's not my right to give somebody an opinion unless they ask for it. You know, it's about holding space and listening. I think that's the most powerful thing, isn't it, really? Is holding a safe space and allowing somebody to be real and vulnerable in whatever they need to do. And being there for them in however they need me to be there. It's like saying, what do you need me to do? Instead of going, right, well, you need to do this, this, and this. You know, it's such a different energy.
Yeah.
So.
And what I would love to just briefly touch on again is just the surrender piece and what that looks like in life now for you.
I can get really emotional, actually, when I think about that. I never thought, you know, I was talking to someone yesterday and I showed them this picture that I'd found of me when I was 17 and I hadn't seen it for ages. And I was hot. Sorry. It's like, I was really
not
cute.
Apologise for being hot.
No, I know, right? Well, I know, right? I was like, wow. And that girl who was like, thought what I thought I was, and then to see that girl now, all this time, if I could have said what I would say to her, but surrender today is peace. You know, it's joy, it's gratitude, it's freedom, and it's love. It's and there will be times, obviously, when I go into a place of fear, I'll pull the rein. You know, it's a default mechanism to pull the reins back in and be like, oh, I need to control this. So it's it's not like, oh, I do it every day, and it's like, I'm a human being. I react. But I think surrender is, I have space today to choose how I want to react to something. Before it was just reactions. I didn't have it wasn't like it was just, I didn't know how not to. So through the work that I've done and the knowing of myself, I have a choice today. I have a choice, which is beautiful. So I can choose to be this or this. And I'm like, okay, I can choose how I'm going to react. And it's, and sometimes I still don't have a choice and I just react. But, I think surrender, it's having awareness, isn't it? And it's awareness of self, awareness of who I am, and and that thing of learning that what is right for me might not be right for somebody else.
Yeah.
But this is my truth, and what works for me, and what works for someone else works for them, and neither is right and neither is wrong. It is what is right for us, and it's having that respect for myself to honor that part of me, and respect for others to honor them in that way too. So.
Beautiful. Okay, Sophie. Well, we are having this conversation in part to celebrate the release of my new book, Infinite Receiving. And so whenever I have a guest
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I like to finish off with the same 6 quick-fire questions. So I would love to ask you, when I say infinite receiving, what does that mean to you?
Open-hearted and love.
Are you good at receiving infinitely?
Getting much better. But yeah, no, I am getting, yes, getting there.
I'll accept that answer. Final answer. I'll accept it. Where or who in your life right now could you allow to love you more?
Ooh, stumped. I don't think anyone.
Really?
No. I think, yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow.
What is
no one comes to mind.
Yeah,
So.
well, I suppose my reflection on that is what I hear when you say that is that you allow everybody in your life to love you without any limitation. Yeah. And I think that is an astounding place to be.
Yeah. Ask me when I'm in a relationship might be another matter, but right now it's, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
but,
yeah.
Yeah.
But that right for me says acceptance as well. Because as soon as you say that, the person actually that I think about is my sister, who annoyed me at the weekend. So I just said, I'll call you back later. And that's me cutting off. That's me cutting her off a bit. And I do that. So thanks for reminding me of where I can allow people to love me a little bit more. You're welcome. What is your greatest attribute?
Kindness.
Nice.
I'm a kind person.
What are you consciously manifesting right now?
Love. And success.
Love.
Yeah. Love and success.
Where could you allow yourself to be a little bit more supported in your life at the moment?
Probably in my work life, I would say. In like really achieving the success that I want for my brand. Yeah, I'd say in that. It's time for that part of me to shine now.
Beautiful. Right, thank you so much for this really rich conversation. Could you tell the listeners where they can find more about you and your work?
Okay, so on Instagram it's Ruha, RUHA jewellery. And then my website is launching hopefully at the end of next month. And that is Ruha, RUHA again, which means spirit in Hindi. It's a spiritual jewellery line, fine jewellery. And it's, ruha.co.uk.
Amazing. If you have loved this episode as much as I have, then please do me a favour, share it with a friend, and don't forget to tag Sophie and I on Instagram. We would love to hear all of your thoughts. And in the meantime, please remember that faith plus action equals miracles. Thank you for listening to Infinite Receiving with me, Susie Ashworth. I'd love to share with you my Infinite Receiving activation audio. Go to susieashworth.com/activate infinite receiving.